Welcome to Can I Sit Here, the podcast where we explore identity, language, and stories that get lost in translation. I'm your host, Kate, and today's episode is deeply personal. It's called The Accent They Wanted Me to Kill. I have two of my good friends here, Liz and Paola. Today I'm going to ask them some questions based on their EXL experience. Alright guys, are you guys ready?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yes.
So the first question is, what was your first memory being placed in an ESL program? Anyone can take the stand.
Okay.
Oh my god.
Dead.
Okay, Wendy, I apologize in advance. I'm gonna leave this in. Liz, come on. Okay, so I'll briefly go over it. So, like, my first experience being placed in ESL, I just remember being just taken out of, like, my regular English class. Like, they would take me out. They would make me walk, like, do, like, a little walk of shame to, like, a different classroom. Like, that was far away from, like, everybody else. Like, I was, like, in, like, not a porta potty. Like, a portable classroom. Yeah. And I was, like, why am I here? And, like, no shade, no tea, but like I was placed with like people that had just came here, and I was like, guys, I've been here for a really long time.
Like you're
like,
here,
yeah. I'm like, why am I here?
Definitely.
So that was my first memory, ladies. If you guys want to speak.
My first memory was definitely being in the second grade, and again being pulled out to a, I guess you could say, like learning center where they had like many different teachers who would work with kids who Spanish was their first language. So they would take me out of class. Like it was usually in the afternoon as well, or for mine it was in the afternoon. Mm-hmm. And they would sit with me and they would talk to me and they would have me read passages, and that was just like my earliest memories of being pulled out.
Okay.
My earliest memory would be as well like being pulled out of class in elementary and just like having to perfect my language and just having to read over and over again. Mm-hmm. I don't know, it just always seemed like I needed more help than everyone else, but I thought like I was the same, so it made me feel a little different. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, it didn't make me feel ashamed though.
Okay, and like, why would you feel ashamed? I just want to touch base.
I feel like some people could feel ashamed because it's like, oh, I need more help, or maybe their English isn't that perfect. Mm-hmm. It just shows that like they're not.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah. So I guess that leads me going into my next question. How did being labeled an ESL student affect the way you saw yourself?
It definitely affected the way I saw myself because it made me feel like, oh, am I not as smart as the other kids for being pulled out? Just because I knew, obviously, like, I knew how to speak English, and I knew I was able to speak it well and comprehend it, just when it came to, like, reading. I feel like as I got older, I started to obviously get better with reading and stuff, but that's just definitely how I saw myself.
Okay.
But I never saw a problem with, like, being...
You never felt like a little different, like an
actually,
outcast?
Yeah,
a little bit?
I did, just because, again, like, when I would be pulled out of class, that made me, like, feel like, okay, like, why isn't anybody else? It's just me. Mm-hmm. But it is not.
I saw myself definitely a little different, but only because I just needed more help than everyone else. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I wasn't the only one in the class. Obviously there was more students, so I was comfortable that I wasn't the only one, and that there were others like me.
Yes. Okay, let me take a look at this. I guess for me, I guess I saw myself a little bit differently. I just saw that I was a little brown girl that needed extra help than everybody else. They would like they would give me watered down criteria, and they were like, oh, like, you need to speak it this way, or like, you're not saying it, and they'll call me out in class and they're like, you need to say this again, but stand up in front of the class. So they would like really emphasize and like pinpoint like where the accent, they would put me on the spot. And I think as a first grader, second grader, I was really nervous. Like, I'm like, to this day, I'm still nervous to speak out, you know. And it's just like, why am I the only one getting called out? You know, like, I'm not perfect, but it's like, why are you seeing me this way? Like, I don't see anything wrong with me.
Yeah.
And it's like, why am I getting called out? So So the following question is, what do you think ESL programs are more about assimilation than education? So assimilation being like they're trying to like die down, like cut down, like they're trying to like silence you in a way in your education system.
I feel like definitely a stimulation. Assimilation. Just because they want you to get rid of your accent and they want you to speak English a certain way, and if you don't speak it a certain way, then you're obviously going to be called out for it or put in classes where you need to speak it properly.
Yes, okay.
I think as well they're more towards about assimilation, because I just feel like they're like they want to their way of viewing help is more just trying to get rid of your accent.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
So it's like, oh, this student needs more help because they have too much of an accent and it's not like perfect English to them.
Yeah, or I feel like classmates, even like at least for me, like I would get made fun of because like, oh, you can't say that word, or like I remember for the longest time I would think honor and horror were the exact same word. So like even though they were like they were different, like to me like it looked the same and it sounded the same.
Yeah.
Like to this day I have a problem with like my R's, my J's, and my Y's, and it's just like sometimes I don't mean it for it to come out, but like when I do, I feel really embarrassed about it. But like I'm like, why should I feel embarrassed about something that's a part of me that's natural to me, and then like I have to correct myself to please other people? Like it shouldn't be like that, and I feel like that's what ESL was trying to do, like trying to remove and strip down like what you were actually like your native, and then they're like, you have to learn English the right way or else you're not going to be able to fit in. Okay, the next question is, how does being separated from your confidence and sales how does being separated from your confidence and sense of belonging, so like how did it feel to be separated in an ESL program, and how did that affect your confidence and your sense of belonging?
Ooh, that's good. So basically being separated from my confidence was just, again, I was able to always comprehend and speak it well. It was just more of like my reading where I would fall off on. So that was definitely like that would be different from being confident. But my sense of belonging, I think also again just like being placed in those classes just made me feel like dumb, I guess you could say, just because they wanted you to be a certain way, they needed you to meet certain requirements to get out of the program, and just made me feel very not smart as other students.
Right.
Yeah.
I think my confidence and my sense of belonging was very hard for me to figure out because I like at a young age you think that everyone's the same, like you are innocent, like no one's gonna judge you for anything, but society obviously judges, and I obviously felt different because I didn't speak the same and I couldn't understand the same or like keep the same pace as everyone else. So yeah, it made me feel like an outcast in a way.
Okay. I guess for me, I just never felt like I actually truly belonged, and I still struggle with this like to this day. I was in high school. I started off freshman and half of my sophomore year going to an all Mexican African American school, and then I was removed and I went to a school in Redlands that had more Caucasians, and I figured, come to find out, they just wanted me because of the diversity that I actually brought to their school, and it wasn't because like, oh, like we're gonna help you. It was like, no, we want you because you're just diverse and stuff. And so I till this day I still have it still does affect me because I'm like, I'm not good at speaking English, nor am I perfect in speaking Spanish. So I'm like, I'm struggling in two languages. So I feel like it's common for us, and I feel like the people that do want to even learn Spanish, they're ashamed by the people that do speak Spanish is like, oh, we're no sabos. And I'm like, we do know. And I feel like, do you guys also struggle with that? The not being able to perfect your Spanish, like being called a no sabo?
Yes, definitely.
Do you want to like speak a little bit more about how that affects you?
That definitely affects me because it's like, I feel like as I go on older, my Spanish is not the best how it used to be when I was little. So now it's like being called that around your family, it makes me feel a certain way because it's like, okay, like, but I'm trying. Like, you know, as I grew up, like, my Spanish is not the same how I was, or how it was when I was once little compared to now being 19 years old.
Yeah.
What about you, Paula?
I just feel like when I like no sabo, it's definitely hurtful. But like you can't really blame us. Like, you know, like Lisa said, we're learning like another language that we've been trying to learn our whole lives. And I don't know. Now to this day, I feel like now that I'm older, I feel like I try to practice it more and try to perfect it more. Because definitely now, like I speak Spanish confidently because. You know, there's nothing wrong with
girl.
it. And but now like now I just think it's like no sabo, like it doesn't really affect me because like you're no sabo.
Yeah, so now you feel like you belong.
Yeah.
That's such an amazing thing.
Can I add something?
Yes.
Also, I feel like when compared to like when I talk to my family who they also speak English and you know they say like oh you're no sabo, I feel like that kind of does have an effect on me just because again like I said like you know you're trying. But I've talked to people who only speak Spanish and they tell me you don't sound like a no sabo, like your Spanish sounds really good.
Yeah.
So it's just like it makes me feel a certain way because it's like I have someone telling me that I'm a no sabo, but then when I talk to someone who only speaks Spanish, that I speak it well and properly. So it's just, it could be very confusing, and I also don't like how there is that phrase, no sabo.
Yeah, because we do know, guys. Yo, see, wait, what is it? What does say? I was like, thank you. I was like, I got stuck. Okay, go. Sí sabemos, guys. Sí sabemos. Okay. That brings me to my third, but not last question. What emotional toll does constantly being corrected for your accent or grammar have on students? So how did being corrected for the way you spoke or having an accent or having grammar issues have affected you? Like, how did that make you feel?
At first it was hard. But as, you know, the years went by, my grammar it started going good. Accent-wise, I feel like I kind of always had it, like, I was always able to hide it. But if it did come out, you know, I would quickly try to, like, you know, hide it. But with my grammar, I think it was just when it comes to English, you know, making sure, you know, you use the correct, like, you're there, like, all those words. But, you know, as time, you start to realize what means what. So.
Yes. If you don't like, you don't have to like. If you don't know or you don't recall feeling that way, and it's okay.
Like what emotional
toll. So like, what emotional toll does constantly being corrected for your accent or grammar have on students?
Okay. I think being like constantly corrected, like it always made you feel like you couldn't mess up because you were always gonna get corrected and like checked for it. So I think that's why like some didn't want to like even speak out loud anymore. And like I think it just made students really shy. Like I personally like don't like to read out loud in classes because I don't want to get corrected for some words that I can't pronounce because like if I have an accent or something that affects me or that like limits me.
I think I also struggle with this to this day, and it made me feel sad because it'd be your own family that calls you out. Like my dad, he's like, "What did you say?" And I would be like, "Oh, yolk." And he's like, "You mean joke or yolk?" And I was like, "Joke." And then like he'll correct me about it, and then I feel like bad, like I feel ashamed that I have it. And he's like, "You're just like your mom, que no pueden hablar inglés correcto." And I'm just like, I feel all shy. And I'm just I was just like, I was. And I'm like, it's weird.
Like, I'm really cool.
Yeah. And I'm like, it's funny because it's just like, it's your own people, but then it's also the people that also have the exact same struggles as you. So it's just like, we're on the same boat, buddy. Like, we're both English learners.
Like, we're both struggling. We're both learning.
Yes.
Like,
and I feel like they try to project it just because they probably went through that.
Yeah.
And they want to project it onto you. But it's like, it shouldn't be like that. Like, you should want to help your child.
Like, another word is order and odor. Like I just said it correctly right now, but like, I really have to think about it. And I'm just like, the way I open my mouth is just like, I can't. Like, that just doesn't. And I think I was always ashamed of like ordering in restaurants too. Like, I was very quiet. I didn't start ordering like my own food until like I was probably a 7th or 8th grader, and I'm being real, because I would always feel really embarrassed or really shy.
Real.
Even like in like Mexican restaurants too, I'm like, like I would get really quiet, or like even like Olive Garden or Texas Roadhouse, I would feel like, oh
yeah.
I'm like, Mom, can you order my food please? Okay. Last but not least, what would you say now that you're hold on. What would you say now to your younger self who felt ashamed of being bilingual? Like, what would you tell younger little you?
I would say to my little self that, you know, to keep it going, keep learning, and that it's not like you shouldn't feel ashamed at all, because if anything, it's like actually like
it's a blessing.
It's a blessing, but it's more of like a advantage.
Yes.
So you should never feel ashamed because you have something that others don't. Like, you can, take action in 2 languages. So I think that's really cool, and I don't know, I would just tell my little self to keep going and to keep learning.
Oh, yes. Okay. Liz, do you want to tell your little you something?
I think I would also say what Paula said, to keep going. It's not the end of the world, and you shouldn't feel so down about it, and beat yourself up about it, because, I don't know about you guys, but like, I would definitely beat myself down about it, being like, oh, am I not as like smart as the other kids? Yeah. So definitely just tell her that it's not the end of the world, that you will get out of those classes, and you will no longer have to be feeling that way. Because at times I do think about like how it did affect me as a kid, and it made me see myself differently. But now that I'm older, I don't see it, because as I'm older, it's like it is a blessing, and you could definitely do a lot. And there's some people who only speak one language, like.
Yes.
No, like, I'm being serious. Like, there's people that only speak one language. There's people that speak like 3 languages. Like, so
and if you're bilingual, you get paid more.
Yeah, so definitely.
Like I'm telling you, it's an advantage.
It's a talent. You should embrace it.
Yeah.
And I feel like schools should not. The education system here in America should not, want to take that away.
Yes. I kind of want to add on to what you said. I think I would tell people to fuck off. I'm sorry, Wendy, but like, for real, like, I think you should never feel ashamed of who you are, and like, you should always embrace your cultural roots, where you come from. You should never feel ashamed to be you, because I felt ashamed all throughout high school when I did that. From the Hispanic school to the all-white school, I felt ashamed of who I was. That's why I literally had no friends, because everybody was super watered down. They were like super whitewashed, and the Mexicans who were really Mexican didn't want to be Mexican anymore. Like, this girl said, she's like, I hate being black. She's like, I wish I was white. I kid you not, straight up said that to her white friends. And I was like, and when she had braids in her hair, and I'm just like, did she just say that? And I was just like, you should never feel ashamed to be who you really are. Like, I feel like being you is the best version of you can possibly get. So I'm just like, just don't be ashamed.
Also, I want to add, like, you should never be ashamed of being able to speak 2 languages.
Yeah.
And that's something that I would want to tell other kids who are younger, who speak both languages, to not be ashamed. Like Paula said, it's an advantage.
It's a gift, it's a talent that not most people have, and not like people that who speak Spanish want to learn how to speak Spanish.
Yeah.
So, to each their own, guys. Okay, to wrap everything up, what would an ideal ESO program look to you guys? So like, what would be like the material? What would you change differently about these ESO programs that are in schools today?
Oh, definitely not belittling them, and just be more of a help than making it seem that it is a bad thing.
Yes,
to be speaking two languages.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to?
I would definitely change, like, not making it, like how Lisa said, not making it such a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe not make it to, like, take away accents, and instead just, like, making it to help them, you know, if they just need help reading more, or, like, struggle pronouncing words. Like, it doesn't have to be, like second language learners. It can be anyone that just truly needs the help.
I want to add on to what you ladies just said. I think for an ideal ESO program to me would be not taking out students out of class. I think for starters, because it's just like when you take a young learning adult, like not an adolescent, we're not even adults yet, we're in grade school, and it's just like when you take them out, you feel assimilated, like you feel annihilated by your own people. It's just like, why are you taking me out and not somebody else out? And like and it's like, I think it takes a physical and a mental toll on you, and it's psychologically, I feel like it's proven that like when you go through things like that, you carry that onto adulthood. And it's, I feel like trauma. I mean, I wouldn't say, I guess I do have some trauma because I didn't graduate until like I was in like 8th grade in middle school. And like there's friends that I know that it's still a thing in high school, which is crazy. So I think it's to not remove students out of their regular classes and putting them in this program, and
also,
more teach them as
I feel like when you're pulling them out of the classroom, they're missing chunks and portions of what the material they need to be learning.
So it's double the work.
And you're pushing them back, and that's not really helping them because you're taking them out of their learning time when it should be done at a different time. But I also feel like you shouldn't keep them after school or have them stay early. So
because I feel like, I mean, I don't know, I feel like I'm smarter than half of the people that don't, you know, and it's like your own people and stuff, you know. So it's just like, I feel like, one, don't take them out. Come on, I feel like we should all learn Spanish regardless, because I feel like a lot of people who migrated here speak Spanish, and it's just like, why do they have to adapt to English? Why can't we adapt to them too? You know, it's just like, let's all be inclusive, let's all be equal. And I know it's very hard to say, well, let's all be equal, because we don't live in a place, we don't live in like this Disneyland place, this fantasy place where everybody is all equal. Some of us feel belittled by other races, and I feel like it's not, or like if you're LGBTQ community, you feel belittled by other people that aren't, what is it, heterosexual? So thank you for joining me today on Can I Sit Here. If this episode reassociated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it, whether that's a